I stood on the porch of my new 2-story colonial home, coffee in hand, watching the moving truck pull up to my parents' house across the street. My mother's face appeared in their living room window, pale and shocked as she watched men carry boxes labeled foreclosure out of what used to be their perfect family home. Madison, my golden child sister, sat on the curb with her head in her hands, her phone buzzing nonstop with notifications that I knew were not the kind she used to celebrate. My father stood frozen by the mailbox, staring at the FOR sale sign like it was a death sentence. And me, I took another sip of my coffee, feeling nothing but the strange peace of watching karma work faster than I ever could have planned. But before I tell you how satisfying this moment was, before I explain how the invisible daughter became impossible to ignore, I need you to do something for me. If you have ever felt overlooked, undervalued, or used by the people who were supposed to love you most, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel because I am going to tell you exactly how I went from being the family ATM to the woman who bought the house across the street just to watch them lose theirs. And drop a comment telling me if you think I went too far. Because honestly, I am still figuring that out myself. Now let me take you back to where this all started. 3 weeks earlier, to be exact, it was a Sunday dinner. The kind my family insisted on having every week to maintain the illusion of closeness. I sat at the far end of the table, arranging my silverware with the kind of precision that comes from years of trying to make yourself small enough to avoid conflict. Madison was in her element, phone propped against the water pitcher, recording herself talking about her latest influencer milestone with that practiced smile she had perfected over 10,000 selfies. So basically, you guys, I just hit 43,000 followers in Kevin. That is my talent agent. He says we are looking at a 6-figure brand deal by next month, Madison announced, her voice carrying that artificial enthusiasm that made my teeth hurt. My parents sat forward like puppies waiting for treats, my mother actually clasping her hands together in delight. Oh honey, that is just wonderful, my mother gushed, reaching over to squeeze Madison's hand. I told Patricia at the salon that you were going to be huge. She did not believe me, but I just knew it. My father nodded vigorously, already pulling out his wallet like he did at every family dinner, ready to invest in Madison's future with another few $100s. I continued cutting my pot roast into identical squares, each cut deliberate and measured, watching the gravy pool around the meat like tiny lakes of resentment. Alexandra, honey, you have been so quiet, my mother said, but her eyes were still on Madison's phone screen, not on me. How is that little project of yours going? The thing with the numbers. Before I could answer, before I could tell them about the 3 new clients I had landed that week, or the $250,000 contract I had just signed, my father cleared his throat with that particular sound he made when he was about to deliver news he expected me to accept without question. Actually, speaking of Alexandra, he started, and I felt my jaw tighten. Here it comes, I thought. Another ask. Another demand disguised as a family discussion. Madison needs better lighting for her content creation, and her current room just does not have the right exposure. Your room, on the other hand, has those big east-facing windows. Perfect natural light. I looked up slowly from my methodical dissection of dinner, my fork suspended in midair. I am sorry. What? My mother jumped in with that syrupy voice she used when she wanted something, the one that made my skin crawl because I knew what was coming. Sweetheart, we were thinking you could move into Madison's room, and she could have yours. Just temporarily. Of course. Until she gets this brand deal sorted out. You understand. Do not. You do not really need all that space just for your paperwork and files. The paperwork and files she was referring to were the detailed financial reports of my consulting firm, the business I had built from nothing, while they assumed I was playing with spreadsheets as a hobby. The space she was so willing to give away was where I had spent countless nights building something they could not see because they had never bothered to look. Before I could formulate a response that would not result in me flipping the table, my father slammed his palm down, making the silverware jump. Either you move to the smaller room, or you move out entirely. You are 27 years old, Alexandra. Most people your age are not still living at home. Maybe it is time you learned what the real world is like. The real world. As if I had not been navigating it alone since I was 14, As if I had not been financially independent since I was 23, paying them rent every month that I later discovered was going straight into Madison's brand building fund. Madison leaned back in her chair, examining her nails with theatrical disinterest. I mean, I do not want to cause drama, but what exactly do you need a big room for anyway? Alex, to store all those boring documents about other people's money at least. I am creating content that inspires people. The words hung in the air like a slap. I felt the old memory surface, sharp and clear as broken glass. I was 14. Had saved every dollar from odd jobs and tutoring for 2 years to buy a laptop for the web design course I wanted to take. I had hidden the cash in a shoebox under my bed, counting it weekly, imagining the possibilities. One day I came home and the money was gone. All $800. My mother did not even try to deny it when I asked. Madison needed a new camera for her photography phase. She had said, like it was obvious, "You can always make more money later, but opportunities for creativity are fleeting." Madison had used that camera for exactly 3 weeks before abandoning it for the next shiny trend. I never did take that web design course, but I learned something more valuable. I learned that, to my family, I was invisible unless I was useful. I set down my fork carefully, precisely aligned it with the edge of my plate. The silence stretched out like elastic, and everyone was staring at me now, waiting for me to fold the way I always did, waiting for invisible Alexandra to say yes, of course, and pack her room with the same quiet efficiency she did everything else. "I will have an answer for you next Sunday," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I stood up, pushing my chair back with deliberate slowness. My father looked confused, like I had just spoken in a foreign language. "What is there to think about? This is not a negotiation." "Alexandra." I met his eyes, and for the first time in years, I did not look away first. "Next Sunday," I repeated. Then I walked out of that dining room with my back straight and my hands steady, even though inside I was calculating, planning, and feeling something dangerous spark to life in my chest. Ethan, my younger brother who usually blended into the wallpaper even more successfully than I did, followed me into the hallway. At 19, he had perfected the art of being present without being noticed, a skill I recognized because I had taught him by example. "Alex," he whispered, glancing back toward the dining room where we could hear Madison already complaining about her studio space crisis. "Whatever you are planning, I hope it is good. You deserve better than this." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the same exhaustion I felt reflected in his eyes. "Thanks, Eli," I said softly, using the nickname I had given him when he was 6. Then I climbed the stairs to my room, my sanctuary, my office, my command center that they thought was just a bedroom with some files in it. I closed the door and leaned against it, looking at the space they wanted to give away like it was nothing. My desk held 3 monitors, currently displaying real-time data from markets across 4 time zones. The bookshelf they assumed held novels was actually full of financial analysis texts, business strategy guides, and certifications in financial planning and investment management. The filing cabinet they thought held personal papers contained contracts, client portfolios, and tax documents for my consulting firm, which had grossed $2.7 million in revenue last year alone. I walked to the window and looked out at the street below, at the houses lined up like dominoes, at the neighborhood I had grown up in feeling like a ghost. And that is when I saw it. The for sale sign. The 2-story colonial directly across the street, with the wraparound porch and the turret room that must have been someone's office. The house I had always admired from this very window. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Marjorie Chen, the real estate agent I had been consulting with for the past 6 months, helping her reorganize her finances and investment portfolio. We had become friendly over our weekly meetings, and she had mentioned more than once that if I ever wanted to buy property, she would give me the family friend discount. "Marjorie," I said when she answered, my voice calm, despite the adrenaline starting to pump through my veins. "It is Alexandra Pierce. Remember that conversation we had about me looking for investment properties? I am ready to move forward." "Oh, wonderful." Marjorie's voice came through warm and professional. "I have several great options in different neighborhoods that would be perfect for rental income or flip potential." I kept staring at that house across the street, at its perfect windows that would give me a direct view into my parents' living room, at the porch where I could stand every morning with my coffee and be impossible to ignore. Actually, I want to look at something specific. The Colonial on my street. The one directly across from my parents' house. There was a pause. Then Marjorie's voice came back, carefully neutral. Alexandra, are you sure? That is quite close to home. Most people moving out prefer a bit more distance. I am absolutely certain, I said, and I felt a smile pull at my lips. Cold and certain. Set up a viewing for tomorrow morning. And Marjorie, let us move fast on this one. After we hung up, I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I pulled up my financial records. Business account. Healthy and growing. Personal savings. Substantial from years of living frugally, while Madison burned through my parents' money like it was confetti. Investment portfolio. Diversified and performing well. Credit score. Excellent. Because I had been managing it carefully since I was 18. I could afford that house. I could afford it with a 60% down payment and still have operating capital for my business and 6 months of emergency expenses. The question was not, could I? It was, should I? I stood up and walked to the window again, looking down at my parents' house. The lights were on in the dining room. I could see them inside, probably still talking about Madison's brilliant future, while I had been dismissed from their minds the moment I left the room. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Dad is talking about changing the locks to make sure you do not steal your room back. I am not kidding. I looked at that text for a long moment. Then I looked at the house across the street. Then I typed back, do not worry about it. I will handle this. And I would. By moving out before they could push me out. By buying a house they would have to look at every single day. By becoming so visible they would trip over the sight of me every time they glanced out their window. I spent that evening not packing, not arguing, not trying to explain myself. Instead, I worked on my business, confirming meetings with clients, finalizing reports, and doing what I did best, which nobody in this house had bothered to notice. I built things. I created value. I made people's financial lives better. Around midnight, I walked past the closed door of my parents' room, where I could hear my mother on the phone with her sister Patricia, probably complaining about her difficult daughter who did not understand family priorities. I passed Madison's room, where her ring light was still on, and she was probably filming her 15th take of whatever performative nonsense she was calling content this week. I went to the kitchen and made myself tea. Standing at the window that overlooked the backyard, my father had a habit of leaving his laptop on the kitchen table after working on household finances, which I knew meant figuring out how to leverage the house equity to fund Madison's next big scheme. The laptop was there now, the screen dark but not closed. I had not planned to look. I had not planned to invade their privacy even after they had trampled all over mine. But I saw the notification light blinking, and I thought about all the times they had gone through my things without asking. All the times they had helped themselves to my money, my space, my time, my entire sense of self-worth. I tapped the trackpad. The screen woke up. No password, because my father could never remember passwords. And there, in neat rows of numbers that told a story he never wanted me to see, was the truth of our family finances. $342,000 in credit card debt. A second mortgage on the house taken out 18 months ago. Home equity line of credit maxed out at $75,000. And every single expense tracked in meticulous detail in a folder labeled Madison's Career Investment. $12,000 for professional filming equipment. $8,000 for a brand consultant named Kevin Shaw, who, according to the email chain, had promised to get Madison to 50,000 followers by next quarter. $4,000 for a networking retreat in Chicago that Instagram evidence showed had been a luxury vacation. $3,000 for a social media management course that Madison had attended for one day. On and on. Purchase after purchase. Crisis after crisis. Always followed by another withdrawal from their rapidly depleting savings. But what made my hands start shaking was the spreadsheet I found buried in a subfolder. It was titled Alexandra Contributions, and it detailed, line by line, every dollar I had given them over the past 5 years, the rent I had been paying them, which I had assumed was going toward household expenses, had been categorized as loan repayment for Alexandra's college funds. College funds they had emptied to pay for Madison's gap year in Europe when she was 19. The one she called her journey of self-discovery, that produced exactly one blog post and $2,000 in bar tabs across 3 countries. I felt something crack open inside my chest, something that had been holding together with willpower and the desperate hope that if I just tried hard enough, was good enough, helpful enough, they would see me. Really see me. But they never would. Because I had never been their daughter. I had been their safety net. Their backup plan. Their financial cushion. I took photos of every document with my phone. My hands steady now with a cold fury that felt cleaner than any emotion I had felt in years. Then I closed the laptop and left it exactly as I had found it. The next morning, I was up at 6. I dressed in a navy blazer and cream silk blouse, the outfit I wore to meet with high-level clients. I did my makeup carefully, put on my grandmother's pearl earrings, the ones my mother had promised to Madison, but that my grandmother had secretly given to me before she died, along with a note that said, "You are the strong one. Alexandra. Do not let them make you forget it." I met Marjorie at the coffee shop on Main Street at 7:30. She had 3 properties pulled up on her tablet, but I held up my hand before she could start the pitch. "I only want to see one property," I said. "The colonial across from my parents, that is the one." Marjorie studied me for a moment, and I saw the question in her eyes. But she was too professional to ask it. Instead, she said, "Let me make some calls. The sellers are motivated. If we move quickly, we might be able to close within 2 weeks. Let us do it," I said. "Whatever it takes." By 8:30, I was standing in the empty living room of the house across from my childhood home, looking through windows that had a perfect view of my parents' front door, their driveway, their living room windows. I walked through room after room, my heels clicking on hardwood floors, imagining my life here. The master bedroom had a bay window that faced directly toward what was currently my bedroom. I stood there for a long moment, thinking about waking up every morning with this view, watching them watch me build a life they had never believed I could have. "The sellers are willing to accept a quick close if you can do 60% down," Marjorie said from the doorway. "They are relocating for work and need to move fast. I think we could close by Wednesday if we push." "Wednesday," I repeated, feeling the timeline click into place. Perfect. I would move out while they were at work, before next Sunday's dinner deadline. They would get home to find my room empty, and this house occupied, all in one devastating blow. "Let us do it," I said. "I want to submit an offer now." Marjorie smiled, and there was something knowing in her expression. "Alexandra, I have worked with a lot of clients over the years, and I have learned not to ask questions about motivation. But I will say this. Whatever your reasons are for buying this specific house, make sure they are going to be worth living with every day. Revenge can be a very expensive neighbor." I looked out that bay window again, at my childhood home across the street. "It is not revenge," I said quietly. "It is visibility. They have spent 27 years pretending I do not exist unless they need something. I am going to make it impossible for them to look anywhere without seeing exactly what they missed." That afternoon, while my parents were at work and Madison was at some influencer brunch downtown, I met with my financial advisor to arrange the wire transfer for the down payment. I met with a mortgage broker who fast-tracked my application. I hired a moving company for Wednesday morning. I called Clara, I've my best friend since college, and the one person who knew the full story of my family's special brand of negligent cruelty. "You are really doing this," Clara said when I laid out the plan. There was no judgment in her voice, only a kind of fierce pride. "You are really buying the house across from them?" "I really am," I confirmed. "Can you help me pack on Tuesday night? I want to be out before they even know what is happening." "Alexandra Pierce. I would not miss this for anything," Clara said. "I will bring wine and boxes, and we will pack up your entire life while those oblivious people sleep across the street. It is going to be glorious." Monday and Tuesday passed in a blur of paperwork, calls with lawyers, and secret preparation. I worked from coffee shops and the local library, avoiding my parents' house except to sleep. When I was home, I was polite, distant, and gave them absolutely no indication that anything had changed. My father made a few comments about me coming to my senses about the room situation. My mother showed me paint swatches in pink and gold that Madison had picked out for her new studio space. Madison herself barely acknowledged my existence. Too busy with her phone and her elaborate staging of a life that existed more online than in reality, Ethan was the only one who seemed to notice something was different. He caught me Tuesday night as I was heading to my room with several empty boxes disguised inside garbage bags. "Alex," he said quietly, "what is happening?" I looked at my little brother, at the worry and confusion on his face, and I made a decision. "Eli, I need you to trust me. Can you keep Mom and Dad distracted Wednesday morning? Maybe suggest going out for breakfast or something." "You are leaving," he said, and it was not a question. "I am leaving," I confirmed. "But not far. And Eli, this is not about you. You are going to be okay. I promise." He nodded slowly, then surprised me by pulling me into a hug. "I am going to miss you," he whispered. "You are the only one in this family who ever treated me like I mattered." I hugged him back hard. "You matter so much, Eli. And I am going to make sure you get what you need for that engineering program you want to apply for. I promise." That night, Clara arrived at 11 with wine, packing supplies, and her boyfriend Marcus, who owned a pickup truck. We moved like a tactical team, packing up my entire life while my family slept. My computers, my monitors, my files, my clothes, my grandmother's jewelry, the textbooks they thought were novels, the certificates and awards they had never asked to see. We packed it all into boxes and garbage bags and carried them down the back stairs and out to Marcus's truck in trips that took until 3 in the morning. When we were done, my room looked like a room. It just did not look like mine anymore. The bed was still there, stripped bare. The dresser was still there, empty drawers gaping open. The desk was there, but clean and barren. I stood in the doorway and looked at the space I had occupied for 27 years. And I felt absolutely nothing. No sadness, no nostalgia. Just a clean, clear sense of rightness. Clara put her hand on my shoulder. "Ready? So ready," I said. Wednesday morning, while Ethan convinced my parents to go out for breakfast to discuss something important about his college plans, the moving truck pulled up to my parents' house at exactly 10 o'clock. I stood on the porch of my new house across the street, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, directing the movers with calm efficiency. Mrs. Henderson from next door came out to water her garden and stopped midstream when she saw me. "Alexandra, is that you?" "Good morning, Mrs. Henderson," I called out with a smile. "I am moving in across the street. I hope we will be good neighbors." She looked confused, glancing between my new house and my parents' house, where the moving truck was now being loaded with the last of my belongings. But I thought, does your mother know? "She will soon," I said pleasantly. "Have a wonderful day." By noon, everything I owned was in my new house. The movers were gone. Clara and Marcus had helped me unpack the essentials, and I was officially moved in. I stood in that bay window of the master bedroom, looking across at my old room, which was now just an empty space waiting for Madison to fill it with ring lights and tripods and all the equipment she needed to maintain her carefully constructed illusion. My phone buzzed with a text from Marjorie. "Congratulations on your new home. Alexandra, you have my number if you need anything. And for what it is worth, I think you are very brave." I did not feel brave. I felt calculated, deliberate, clear-headed for the first time in years. Clara brought me lunch from the deli, and we sat on my new porch eating sandwiches and drinking iced tea like we did not have a care in the world. "So what is the plan for Sunday dinner?" she asked. "Are you going to just show up and drop the bomb? Or are you going to make them sweat it out?" "Oh, I am definitely going to Sunday dinner," I said. I told them I would have an answer about the room, and I am a woman of my word. Clara laughed so hard she nearly choked on her sandwich. "You are diabolical. I love it." That evening, I watched my parents come home from work. I watched my father check the mail, my mother carry in groceries, Madison arrive in an Uber because she still could not drive after 3 failed driving tests. I watched all of them go into that house like it was any other day, completely unaware that everything had already changed. Around 7, my phone rang. It was my mother. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello? Mother. Alexandra. Where are you? Your father went up to your room and it is completely empty. Did you do something? Did you take your things somewhere? We need to talk about this right now. I took a sip of wine, looking out at their house from my living room window. I am at my house. Mother. What house? What are you talking about? Are you at Clara's? You cannot just run away from family problems. Alexandra. I am not at Clara's, I said calmly. I am at my house. The one I bought? The one directly across the street from you. Actually, if you go to your living room window, you can probably see me waving. There was a long silence. Then, a crash. Like she had dropped the phone. I heard muffled shouting, footsteps, and then multiple faces appeared in their living room window, all staring across at me. I lifted my wine glass in a small salute. My father grabbed the phone. What the hell do you think you are doing? He roared. You do not have money to buy a house. You work with spreadsheets. You cannot afford this. Actually, I can, I said. I own a financial consulting firm. Dad, I have owned it for 5 years. I grossed $2.7 million last year. I bought this house with a 60% down payment. And my mortgage is less than the rent I was paying you. Which, by the way, I know you were using to fund Madison's make-believe career instead of putting toward household expenses like you told me. More silence. I could see them through the window, frozen like a tableau of shock. I will see you Sunday for dinner, I continued. I did promise you an answer about the room situation. After all, you can use my old room for whatever you want now. I will not be needing it. I hung up before anyone could respond. Then I blocked all their numbers except for Ethan's, because I knew they would bombard me with calls and texts all week. And I wanted them to sit with this. I wanted them to stare at my house every single day and wonder how they had missed this. How they had missed me. Thursday morning. I woke up in my new house and made coffee in my new kitchen. I stood on my new porch in my pajamas and watched my father leave for work. He looked up at my house, and even from across the street, I could see the anger and confusion on his face. I waved. He did not wave back. That afternoon, while I was in a video conference with a client from Singapore, my doorbell rang. I muted my mic and checked the camera. It was my mother, holding a pie. I finished my meeting before answering the door. When I finally opened it, she had been standing there for 20 minutes, the pie going cold in her hands. Alexandra, sweetheart, she said, and her voice had that trembling quality she used when she wanted to seem vulnerable. Can we talk? Can I come in? I took the pie, but did not step aside to let her enter. What would you like to talk about? Mother? She looked past me into the house, her eyes widening at the custom furniture. The professional-grade office setup visible through the doorway. The art on the walls. I do not understand. When did you? How did you? When did I become successful? I finished for her. About 5 years ago. How did you miss it? You never asked. But you said you worked with numbers. You said you did consulting. I do, I said. Financial consulting. I have clients across 4 countries. I employ 3 people. I am expanding to 5 next month. She started crying then. Real tears that might have moved me if I had not spent 27 years learning that her tears were just another manipulation tactic. Why did you not tell us? Why did you let us think? We are your family. You should have shared this with us. Like you shared your financial problems with me, I asked softly. Like you shared that you had taken out a second mortgage. Like you shared that you were $300,000 in debt funding Madison's Instagram fantasy. Her face went pale. How do you? I know everything. Mom, I know about the credit cards. I know about the home equity line. I know that every dollar I gave you for rent went straight to Madison's account. I know you have maybe 6 months before the bank starts foreclosure proceedings. You would let that happen, she whispered. You would let us lose our home. You were going to let me lose my room. I said. You were going to kick me out if I did not give it up willingly. The only difference is, I actually had options. So yes, I am going to let you face the consequences of your choices. Just like you were ready to let me face the consequences of mine. I handed the pie back to her. I will see you at Sunday dinner. Do not come back here unless I invite you. I closed the door in her face and went back to work. Through the window, I watched her walk slowly back across the street, the pie still in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs that I felt nothing about. Friday. It was Madison's turn. She posted on Instagram about family betrayal and toxic people who abandon you when you need them most. The post got 43 likes and one comment from Tencone Kevin asking her to call him urgently. I knew what was coming. I had known from the moment I saw those financial records. Madison's follower count had been artificially inflated with purchased bots. Kevin Shaw was not a talent agent. He was a social media scammer who sold fake follower packages and promised brand deals that would never materialize. And now, with my parents' money running out, Madison's house of cards was about to collapse with spectacular speed. I did not have to do anything to make it happen. I just had to wait. Saturday morning. I watched Madison storm out of my parents' house, phone pressed to her ear, face blotchy with tears. She paced in the driveway for 30 minutes, yelling at someone about false advertising and promised results, before throwing her phone at the garage door hard enough to shatter the screen. That afternoon, an anonymous tip was sent to several influencer watchdog accounts about Madison's fake followers. I did not send it, but Clara's boyfriend Marcus had a friend who worked in social media analytics, and that friend had opinions about people who built careers on purchased authenticity. By evening, Madison's Instagram was being flooded with comments calling her a fraud. Her follower count started dropping in real time as the bot accounts were identified and removed. Brands she had claimed were interested in partnerships publicly denied ever being in contact with her. I watched it all unfold from my porch, coffee in hand, feeling a satisfaction that was probably unhealthy, but absolutely earned. Ethan came over Saturday night, using the back door when no one was watching. I let him in and immediately pulled him into a hug. Is it bad? I asked, though I could guess the answer from his expression. It is a war zone, he said. Dad is on the phone with the bank constantly. Mom keeps crying and asking where they went wrong. Madison locked herself in your old room and has not come out since this morning. And everyone keeps asking me if I knew you were rich this whole time. I am not rich, I corrected gently. I am comfortable. I worked very hard for it. There is a difference. They keep saying you owe them, Ethan said quietly. That families help each other, that you should pay off their debts because you can afford it. I looked at my little brother and made a decision. Eli, how serious are you about that engineering program at State? He looked confused by the subject change. Really serious. But it is expensive. And with everything happening, I am going to pay for it, I said. Your tuition, your room and board, your books, everything. On one condition. What condition? You do not let them talk you out of going. You do not let them convince you to stay home to help with their problems. You go. You study. You build your own life. Promise, May. He stared at me, and I saw tears forming in his eyes. Alex, I cannot let you. Yes. You can, I said firmly. Because you are not them. You have never treated me like a bank account or a backup plan. You have never made me feel invisible. And I am going to make sure you have the chance they never gave me. The chance to build something that is yours. He hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are welcome, I said. Now go home before they notice you are gone. And Eli tomorrow at dinner. Do not pick sides. Just observe. It is going to be educational. Sunday arrived with the kind of brilliant sunshine that felt like cosmic approval. I dressed carefully again. Navy blazer. Cream silk blouse. Grandmother's pearls. Professional but not aggressive. Successful but not showy. I wanted them to see not a different person, but the person I had always been that they had chosen to overlook. I put together a presentation folder. Inside were the documents that would make this dinner one they would never forget. The deed to my house. My business incorporation papers. Financial statements showing my income. Copies of the photos I had taken of their financial records. A printed screenshot of Madison's Instagram analytics showing the purchased followers, and lastly, a handwritten letter that I had spent all of Friday night writing and rewriting. At 5:58, I walked across the street with that folder in hand. feeling like I was suiting up for battle, because that is exactly what this was. I did not knock. I used my key, which they had not thought to ask for back. I walked into the dining room at precisely 6 o'clock, and I had the satisfaction of watching all three of them freeze like I had walked in with a weapon. My father was red-faced, clearly ready to explode. My mother looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes from crying, or not sleeping, or both. And Madison looked like someone had taken away her favorite toy and replaced it with reality. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. Sweatpants. This was not the Madison who performed for the camera. This was the Madison who existed when the filters came off. You have a lot of nerve showing your face here. My father started, but I held up one hand. You invited me, I said calmly. You set a deadline for last Sunday. I am here, 1 week later, with my answer about the room situation. The room situation, Madison shrieked, her voice cracking. You destroyed my career. You ruined everything. Those accounts, those comments. That was you, was it not? I set my folder down on the table and took my usual seat at the far end. I did not destroy your career. Madison, you did not have a career. You had a fantasy built on purchased followers and our parents' debt. I did not make Kevin Shaw a scammer. I did not make you lie about brand deals that never existed. I just stopped participating in the delusion. How dare you? My mother breathed. We are your family. Are you? I asked. And my voice was so quiet that everyone leaned forward to hear me. Because families are supposed to see each other, know each other, support each other. And you have spent 27 years looking right through me unless you needed something. So forgive me if I am unclear on what family actually means in this house. My father slammed his hand on the table, exactly like he had done last Sunday. But this time, I did not flinch. You owe us an explanation. You owe us an apology. And frankly, given your apparent wealth, you owe us financial assistance. We raised you. We housed you. We fed you. You raised me to be invisible, I said. You housed me in exchange for rent that you used to fund Madison's Instagram account. And yes, you fed me, which is the bare minimum legal requirement for parents. Would you like me to applaud? I opened my folder and began sliding documents across the table, one by one, like a lawyer presenting evidence. This is the deed to my house. Purchased outright. No help from anyone. This is my business incorporation from 5 years ago. These are my tax returns for the past 3 years. This is a client list from 4 countries. This is my current revenue projection. And this, I slid the photos of their financial records across the table, is why I will not be giving you a single dollar. My mother's hand shook as she picked up the photos. You went through our private files. You went through my savings when I was 14 and stole $800 to buy Madison a camera she used for 3 weeks. I said, you want to talk about privacy. You want to talk about boundaries. Let us talk about the second mortgage you took out to pay for Madison's fake career. Let us talk about the $342,000 in credit card debt. Let us talk about how you have maybe 6 months before the bank forecloses. The room went silent except for the sound of my mother's crying, which had become a background soundtrack to this entire week. Madison stood up so fast her chair tipped over backward. So what? You are just going to sit in your fancy house and watch us lose ours. What kind of sister does that? The kind whose college fund you spent on a gap year in Europe, I said. The kind who paid rent for 5 years that went straight into your pocket? The kind who worked 3 jobs to put herself through community college while you got a free ride to a university you dropped out of after 1 semester? That kind of sister. We made mistakes, my father said. And for the first time, his voice was not angry. It was desperate. We made mistakes. Alexandra, we admit that, but you cannot just abandon us. You are family. Family helps family. You are absolutely right, I said. Family does help family. When they are trying, when they are taking responsibility, when they are not just looking for another bailout to avoid facing consequences. I pulled out the last document. The letter I had written, I am going to read you something, and then I am going to leave, and you are going to have a choice to make. I unfolded the letter, my hands steady. To my family, I have spent my entire life trying to earn your approval, your attention, your love. I thought if I was good enough, quiet enough, helpful enough, you would finally see me. But I was wrong. You saw me perfectly clearly. You just did not value what you saw. You valued what I could provide. My money, my space, my silence. And I am done providing those things. I am not your safety net. I am not your backup plan. I am not your source of emergency funds. I am your daughter, and your sister, and I deserve better than to be treated like a bank account with no feelings. So here is what I am offering. Not money, not bailouts, not the satisfaction of watching me save you from your own choices. I am offering you the chance to build a real relationship with me. One based on mutual respect. One where you actually know who I am and what I do. One where I am not invisible until I am useful. If you want that, you need to take responsibility. Madison, you need to get a real job and start paying your own way. Mom and Dad, you need to face your financial situation head on, which means selling the house, downsizing, and learning to live within your means. You need to stop enabling Madison's delusions and start treating her like an adult who can handle consequences. And all of you need to understand that I will never again accept being treated as less important, less valuable, or less visible than Madison. If you cannot do those things, then we will remain neighbors. I will be polite when I see you. I will wave from my porch. But I will not be your daughter or your sister in any way that matters. The choice is yours. I folded the letter and stood up. You gave me an ultimatum about my room. I am giving you one about our relationship. You have until the end of the month to show me that you are serious about change. Actual change. Not promises. Not tears. Not manipulation. Real, measurable actions. And if we do not, my mother whispered, then I will live my life. And you will live yours. And we will be the people who used to be family. I said, I will not stop you from losing your house. I will not fund Madison's next scheme. I will not be your emergency contact when things fall apart. I will be exactly what you made me. Invisible. I picked up my folder and walked toward the door. Ethan was standing in the hallway, and I could see from his face that he had heard everything. Eli, I said gently, remember what I told you? You have your own path. He nodded, his eyes wet. I know. Thank you. Alex. I walked out of that house for the second time in a week. But this time felt different. This time felt final. I crossed the street to my house, climbed the steps to my porch, and sat down in the rocking chair I had bought the day before. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I could see into their dining room window, could see them still sitting at the table, frozen in the wreckage of the family structure I had just demolished. My phone buzzed. Clara. Well, I typed back. I think I just blew up my entire family. Good, she replied. They had it coming. Are you okay? I thought about that question. Was I okay? I had just told my family I would let them lose their house. I had exposed every lie, every manipulation, every moment of casual cruelty. I had burned every bridge and salted the earth behind me. Yeah, I typed. I think I am. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in watching consequences unfold. Madison posted a tearful video about losing everything that got 300 views. Most of them, hate-watching. She deleted it within an hour. Then she deleted her Instagram entirely. 3 days later, she moved out of my parents' house into a studio apartment across town and got a job at a coffee shop. I heard about it from Ethan, who texted me updates like a war correspondent. My father started seeing a financial advisor. Not me. Someone else. Someone who apparently told him exactly what I could have told him for free. They needed to sell the house. They needed to declare bankruptcy. They needed to start over. The for sale sign went up on day 12. My mother called me once. Twice. 5 times. I did not answer. On day 15, she sent a text, I am sorry. I know that is not enough. But I am trying to understand where we went wrong. Can we talk? I did not reply. Not yet. I needed to see action. Not words. Meanwhile, my life continued. I landed 2 new clients. I hired my 4th employee. a brilliant young analyst from India who reminded me of myself at 23, hungry and invisible and desperate to prove her worth. I turned my second bedroom into an office and started hosting client meetings there. My professional success on full display for anyone who happened to glance through my windows. I went grocery shopping and ran into neighbors who suddenly knew my name after years of overlooking me. Alexandra Pierce. They would say, "We heard you are quite the entrepreneur. Your parents must be so proud." I would smile and say nothing, and let them draw their own conclusions from the for sale sign across the street. 3 weeks after my ultimatum dinner, I was working on my porch when a car pulled up. Not my parents. Not Madison. A moving truck. But small. The kind you rent by the hour. Madison got out of the driver's seat, looking exhausted and different. She was wearing the coffee shop uniform, her hair in a simple ponytail. No makeup. No performance. She saw me watching and froze. For a moment, I thought she would just get back in the truck and leave. Instead, she walked across my lawn, stopping at the bottom of my porch steps. "I am not here to ask for money," she said. Her voice was hoarse, like she had been crying or maybe just tired from actually working for a living. "I just wanted you to know that I quit. No more Instagram. No more influencer bullshit. I am working 40 hours a week at a coffee shop, and I am paying my own rent. And it sucks. But it is real." I did not say anything. I just waited. "I was jealous of you," Madison continued. "I know that sounds crazy because they always chose me. Right. But you had something I never did. You had substance. You had worth that was not dependent on likes or followers or whether people thought you were pretty, and I hated you for it because I knew deep down that I was empty. I am still figuring out who I am without the performance. But I wanted you to know that I am trying." She turned to leave, and I surprised myself by speaking. "Madison." She looked back. "Good luck," I said. And I meant it. She nodded, wiped her eyes, and walked back to her truck. 1 month after my ultimatum, on a Tuesday evening, there was a knock on my door. All three of them. My mother, my father, and Ethan, not Madison, which was probably wise. I opened the door but did not invite them in. "We sold the house," my father said without preamble. "We close next week. We found a 2-bedroom apartment near the community center. It is half the size. It is not what we are used to, but it is what we can afford. We filed for bankruptcy," my mother added. "It is humiliating, but it is done. We are starting over." I looked at them, really looked at them, and saw what I had never seen before. Fear, uncertainty, humility. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because you were right," my father said, and the words sounded like they physically hurt him to say. "We did not see you. We used you. We took advantage of your kindness and your competence and your desperate need to be loved. And we gave you nothing back. And we are sorry." "Sorry does not fix 27 years. I said. "No," my mother agreed. "It does not. But maybe time will. If you give us time. If you let us prove that we can be the family you deserved all along." I looked past them, at the sold sign, now standing in their yard, at the house that had been my prison and my hiding place and my launching pad all at once. I thought about the girl who had arranged silverware with obsessive precision because she was trying so hard to be small enough to avoid conflict. I thought about the woman who had built a multi-million-dollar business from a bedroom her family thought held nothing but paperwork. "Okay," I said, "but on my terms. We start over. From scratch. You do not get access to my finances. You do not get to ask me for money. You do not get to use me as a safety net ever again. We have dinner once a month. You ask me about my life. You listen to the answers. You treat me like I matter. Or we stop trying. Those are the conditions." "Deal," my father said immediately. "Deal," my mother echoed. I looked at Ethan, who had been quiet this whole time. "What do you think?" "Eli, I think you are the strongest person I know," he said. "And I think you deserve a family that sees that." I stepped aside and let them into my house for the first time. We sat in my living room, on my furniture, in my space that I had created. And we talked. Really talked. I told them about my business, About my clients. About the challenges and victories they had never asked about. They listened. They asked questions. They did not make it about them. It was not perfect. It was not healed. But it was a start. 6 months later, I stood on my porch watching the new family move into my parents' old house. Young couple. 2 kids. A golden retriever. The kids waved at me, and I waved back. The house that had held so much pain was becoming someone else's story now. My parents came over for our monthly dinner, arriving in their sensible sedan, instead of my father's old luxury car they could not afford. Madison came too, for the first time, bringing dessert she had paid for with her own money from her coffee shop job, where she was now assistant manager. Ethan had just finished his first semester at State, studying mechanical engineering, getting straight A's. He talked about his classes with an enthusiasm that lit up the room, and everyone listened, including Madison, who for once was not checking her phone. We ate dinner at the table I had chosen, in the house I had bought, surrounded by the success they had tried so hard not to see. But now they saw it. Now they saw me. "Can I ask you something?" my mother said as we cleared plates. "That night, when you told us you bought this house, were you trying to punish us or prove something to us?" I thought about that question while I scraped leftovers into containers. "Neither," I said finally. "I was trying to prove something to myself, that I had value even if you could not see it, that I could build a life even without your support, that I did not need your approval to know my worth." "And did you prove it?" my father asked. I looked around my house, at my family awkwardly trying to rebuild what had been broken, at the life I had created from nothing but determination and spite, and the absolute refusal to stay invisible. "Yeah," I said. "I did." That night, after everyone left, I stood on my porch with a glass of wine, looking at the stars. My phone buzzed with a text from Clara. "How did it go?" "Better than expected." I typed back. "They are trying. It is weird, but they are trying." "And how are you?" she asked. I looked at my house, glowing warm in the darkness. I thought about the girl who had meticulously arranged silverware because she was afraid to take up space. I thought about the woman who had spent savings meant for a laptop on a little sister who never said thank you. I thought about all the ways I had tried to earn love from people who did not know how to give it. And then I thought about the woman I was now. The one who had bought a house just to prove a point. The one who had forced her family to face consequences. The one who had drawn boundaries in permanent marker and dared anyone to cross them. "I am good," I typed to Clara. "I am really, really good." And I was. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all: your worth is not determined by the people who cannot see it. Your value does not decrease because someone fails to recognize it. And sometimes, the best revenge is not destruction. It is building a life so undeniably successful that the people who overlooked you cannot help but see their mistake every single day. They gave me an ultimatum about a room. I chose freedom and built an empire. They wanted me invisible. I bought the house across the street and became impossible to ignore. They thought I was nothing. I proved I was everything they had been too blind to see. And now, every morning, when they wake up and look out their windows at wherever they are in their downsized life, they know exactly what they missed. Not because I told them, because I showed them. Every single day. That is not revenge. That is visibility. And visibility, I have learned, is the best power of all. So here is my question for you, because I know some of you have felt invisible too. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you most? Have you ever had to prove your worth to people who should have seen it from the beginning? Drop a comment and tell me your story. Let us celebrate being seen. And if this story resonated with you, if you understand what it feels like to be invisible until you make yourself impossible to ignore, hit that like button. Subscribe, because I have more stories about taking back your power and refusing to be small. And share this with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not defined by the people who fail to recognize it. Your value exists whether anyone acknowledges it or not. But damn, does it feel good when they finally have no choice but to see?